Hi everyone, my name is CrispyDrone. I'm a relatively new player and I'm currently a solid P rank on Icy Cup. The first part of this tutorial series will be about the 12 pool opening. 12 pool is robust, meaning it is safe against a lot of cheese and doesn't have a significant disadvantage versus any opening when played right, aside from against the 12 hatch. Today we will look into the situation of 12 pool against a standard 9 pool or overpool situation. With standard, I mean an aggressive 9 pool or overpool with speed first into lair. Fighting Spirit is a 4-player map. The possible spawning configurations carry a factor of luck with them. Having your first overlord find your opponent on first try, while his is completely off course, entails a significant advantage. You can now see how your opponent is using his larvae, while he cannot see yours. Fighting Spirit also has ramps, which confer a big defender's advantage. Abuse them when you can and be wary of suiciding badly controlled Zerglings. The build order for a 12 pool starts out with building drones until 9 population. Practice on splitting your drones and try sending them to the minerals with the highest gathering rate. If we number the minerals from 1 to 9, top to bottom, 8, 3, 5 and 1 are the best. Then comes patch 2, 4 and 6 and finally patch 9. Produce an overlord at 9. As soon as the overlord finishes, make 3 more drones and then a spawning pool. Make an extractor with the 3rd drone that finishes and get 1 more drone. When this final drone finishes, you will make a hatchery at your natural and start saving larvae. At this point you will have 10 drones. As soon as the extractor finishes, put 3 on gas until you have 100 Vespene gas. Research metabolic boost and take 1 drone off gas. Take your initial 6 circlings and move to protect your natural. If you currently have not found your opponent yet, continue building circlings until you get useful scouting information. Then, re-evaluate whether you can build circlings or drones. As soon as you have 100 gas again, start upgrading your main hatchery to a lair. With your first overlord, you will fly over the natural of an adjacent main. If you see a hatchery building, this most likely means your opponent went for a 12 hatch opening. It could also be a 9 hatch, but this is rather rare. A 12 hatch will have around 300 to 350 health, whereas a 9 hatch will be close to halfway done. Instead of seeing a hatchery, it is also possible that you will meet your opponent's overlord when you're flying over the natural, as was the case in this game. This indicates that your opponent went for an overlord at 9 before a spawning pool. If there's no hatchery building and you did not meet an overlord yet, continue with your overlord towards the main. To save on time, you want your overlord to only go as far into the main as necessary for you to see the areas that would be covered by the outskirts of creep. If you do not see creep here, immediately send your overlord towards the following main. If you meet the overlord someplace above the ramp, this can indicate that he went for a 9 pool instead. Some other signs to distinguish a 9 pool from an overpool include the Zergling timing. If you see them halfway the natural, it is a 9 pool, and if you see them when you're flying over the ramp, it is an overpool. Counting drones is also one of the most valuable tools in ZVZ. A 9 pool will have 9 drones and an overpool 10 if no larvae have been spent on additional drones yet. In this particular game, we met his second overlord at his natural and we saw very early links leaving his base. This means he opened with an overpool. When our overlord has vision of his base, we count the drones to confirm, yes, he has 10 drones. In the early game versus a 9 pool and overpool, you will want to defend your hatchery and stay close to it as their speed will finish a lot earlier than yours. Versus a close position 9 pool, it will often be necessary to pull 2 drones together with your initial 6 circlings. A good technique to micro your drones together with the Zerglings is to create one control group with both Zerglings and drones, and a second control group with only the drones. This allows you to quickly move the drones separately by using the second hotkey. Think about pulling back, mineral walking, or blocking the position of your opponent's Zerglings. Versus an Overpool, this is not necessary. With decent control, it should be possible to defend against these initial 6 Zerglings, and your reinforcing Zerglings should arrive at the same time as his. In case of an Overpool, your opponent's speed should finish around 3 minutes 25 seconds, which is at the same time your natural hatchery will finish. In case of a 9 pool, speed will finish roughly 15 seconds earlier or slightly before your natural hatchery finishes. Stay on your toes and do not let any Zerglings into your main. After you have defended your natural hatchery and you have speed as well, you can be very aggressive since you will have a larvae advantage. One thing you always have to be watchful of is your opponent hiding a couple of links and backstabbing when you move out. Your overlord positioning is important for this, as well as your awareness. Remember to check his larva usage in his main if you have vision with your overlord. This way you can account for any missing Zerglings. Overlords are also of help with spotting sneaky Zerglings, so be sure to have them positioned appropriately, such as near your bridge or his. Right now you have 2 options. If you have taken favorable Zergling engagements, you can continue building Zerglings with both hatcheries. If he doesn't react appropriately by building 1 or even 2 Sunkens, he will die. In this scenario, it is even possible for you to take all drones off gas. If he manages to get a few Mutalisks out, you can defend by getting spores. Some nice numbers to know are the flight distance between bases and the building times for an evolution chamber and a spore colony. The flying distance between close positions is about 22 seconds from main to main. For cross positions it is roughly 30 seconds. An evolution chamber takes 25 seconds to build, while a colony needs about 13 to 14 seconds to build. Same thing to morph it into a spore. By timing your creep colonies to start building halfway through the evolution chamber's construction, you can get the spore up in approximately 40 seconds. In practice, this means that you will be completely safe against Mutalisks if you start building your evolution chamber as soon as the spire completes. Now your second option is to ideally force a sunken by putting on pressure. Behind this, you want to get an economical advantage by building drones instead of massing Zerglings. Since you continue to gather gas, you will need these extra drones to be able to afford the spores to defend against the incoming Mutalisks. One strong tactic is to push slightly before the spire finishes with a considerable Zergling attack force. The aim is to force your opponent to use his larva on Zerglings instead of Mutalisks. This can allow you to bridge the gap between spire timings so you can play without having to go for spores. This is not easy to do, however, and can backfire if you screw up your Zergling control. Once you get to the stage of the game where your opponent has Mutalisks and you do not, you will want to do a few things. Prevent his harassment of your drone lines, deny his expansions, and build up your economy so you can utilize your second geyser. If you can do these things, you will win the game by being able to utilize twice as much Vespene gas. To accomplish these goals, Zerglings are key. By having Zerglings out on the map, you can force his Mutalisks to stay back. This protects your drone lines. If he attempts to expand without having his Mutalisks nearby, you can deny his attempts. If he keeps his Mutalisks at home, it is important to not waste your Zerglings needlessly, since you are still relying on spores to keep you safe against Mutalisks. But spores cannot defend themselves against Zerglings or even Sunkens, in case he does a Sunken push at your natural. If your opponent is building an expansion and you cannot deny it, your goal is to now try to keep your economical lead and catch up in Mutalisk numbers and preferably get an advantage in upgrades such as +1 flyer carapace, which is superior to +1 attack. In short, having +1 flyer carapace will reduce all Mutalisk damage by 1, so even the bounces. However, +1 flyer attack only gives +1 attack on the main attack and a much reduced bonus on the first bounce and even less on the second bounce. If you play it outright, you will take over your opponent in Mutalisk's numbers and will be able to end the game. If however you cannot contest for air control, you can still attempt to move out unseen with your Mutalisks and hit his economy. This is only possible if your opponent did not build spores, but you did. You can even time an attack with your Mutalisks to hit his main while you attack the natural with a force of circlings. If you cannot catch up in Mutalisk numbers, you will have to resort to these type of tactics. One final important technique you can use if you get caught moving out is to split your Mutalisks one by one and send them in different directions. By doing this, you will at least not lose all of your Mutalisks, but most likely only a few. One final advice is to realize that Scourges are very easy on minerals and very good against low numbers of Mutalisks. It is often necessary to build Scourges when you need to build extra drones to gather gas from your second geyser and to be able to afford to use it for Mutalisks. During the period where you are trying to build up your Mutalisk numbers, it is important to keep on scouting with individual Zerglings. A conspicuous lack of an expansion could mean he hit one somewhere on the map, or maybe he is massing Zerglings to try to overwhelm your natural. Maybe he intends on bringing a few drones to build spores or sunkens at your natural. The message is to stay vigilant and not get tunnel vision. In case your opponent is harassing your bases and you are locked down, you can use Scourges to intercept reinforcements instead of going for the big pack. A technique I use while microing Scourges is to right-click his Mutalisks and deselect a few. I then manually control the rest and attempt to predict his movements so I can intercept his Mutalisks. The combination between automatic pathing and manual control makes it harder for him to bug out the Scourge pathing. In Mutalisk versus Mutalisk battles, you do not want to aim move. You want to focus down individual Mutalisks to quickly reduce his numbers. It is also important to always try to stay in motion so you do not get caught off guard by Scourges. In this particular game, I took a lot of damage from a backstab, but was able to rebuild my drone count behind solid Scourge control. I managed to get up spores and to defend my base with Zerglings. Then I eventually managed to get ahead by having more gas available. I'm CrispyDrone and thank you for watching this tutorial. Stay tuned for part 2 where I will discuss how to play against 12 pool and 12 hatch.
Evolution complete.